We get to watch Fatal Fury today. I love this movie. I love all three of the Fatal Fury movies. The second one was one of the first movies I ever saw, or at least one of the first animes I ever saw. And I have a lot of memories of playing Fatal Fury 2. My friend Drew actually had Fatal Fury 2 for the Super Nintendo. I don't know why exactly. it was just kind of one of those weird things. You hear so much more about Street Fighter 2, and one of the first fighting games I happen to play, or at least have good memories of playing, happens to be Fatal Fury 2.
So this is a story that you've probably heard before. Martial artist trains with his master, adopts two kids, whose clothing mysteriously grows and ages with them. I'm not joking. It's very strange. But anyway, the two orphan kids see their dad get killed by the guy who didn't get taught the secret technique. It does sound a little bit like Akuma, or something like that, at least if I'm even vaguely remembering Street Fighter correctly. Anyhow, their adopted dad gets killed, which, that's pretty sad, and it kind of forms the basis for them to go get revenge. But not both of them. They both can't get revenge, because obviously Terry's better than Andy. In every way. I mean, he's just a better human being and everything like that. He obviously is the one who has to get revenge. Fuck Andy. So we see Geese Howard here, which I don't think they know this right away, but Geese Howard shows up, kills their dad. They don't get a chance to go and do anything. I mean, they're like 8. It wouldn't end well for them. And Master Tongue tells them, they're not going to get any justice the way, you normally would. They can't go to the police because Geese has paid them off. They can't do anything because it's a very corrupt system. So their only recourse is to train in martial arts and then come back and murder Geese. I mean, that makes sense to me. So Terry meets Joe Higashi when he finally comes back. We don't really hear a whole lot about what happened in between, and that's not really all that important. But this is where Terry first sees Lily. He doesn't really know who Lily is, and then he meets Joe Higashi. And they, unfortunately, don't fight.
I wish we had seen a fight between Terry and Joe. It would have been a lot better. Of course, this would have been a lot better if my Shiranui had been in it. But, whatever, you can't have everything.
And we get the first kind of tease of Terry and Andy fighting each other, which we don't get in this movie, which is kind of a shame. But they both show up at their dad's grave, and they're fighting in a graveyard, which I think is kind of weird. I don't know. They don't even say hi to each other. I'm assuming they know that it's, the other person and everything. You have to assume it's been years since they've met, so maybe they don't know each other. But it is a good thing that they're still wearing the exact same outfits as they were before. Like with minor variations, but yeah, basically their clothing grew up with them. Which I think is funny.
But we don't get Terry and Andy to fight. No, that's never gonna happen in this. It gets teased another time, but it's never gonna happen.
Lily tries to poison Terry because Geese Howard is making her do this. She's kind of like a slave for Geese and whatnot. I don't know. I think it's really weird that Lily and Terry, recognize each other since they had never really met before.
So after the poisoning subplot, then we get the wonderful fight montage, where we get to see some okay fights, but this is only like a 45-50 minute movie, so we need to keep this shit moving.
So we get the fight montage, and we have Terry and Andy's first fights in the King of Fighters tournament. Andy's goes by really fast. Like I think they say it's only like 7 seconds or something like that. So it's in and out pretty quick. Terry's lasts longer. He's fighting Richard Meyer. Richard Meyer's also in the games, which is kind of fun. You have no idea who... Oh God, I think you actually do see the guy that Andy fights. Maybe I'm wrong. They show it as like some Muay Thai fighter or some kickboxer, and I think he shows up again in the motion picture, but I could be wrong on that one. They kind of look the same if I'm remembering it correctly. Either way, it doesn't really matter. The guy's in and out pretty quick. And then they just sort of do a montage of Billy, Andy, Raiden, and Terry going through until the quarterfinals. I wish we had gotten to see more of these fights, but I guess SNK and the people who made the movie didn't really want to spend that much time on this and just wanted to keep the plot moving.
And then they tease another fight between Andy and Terry. This is the second one that I talked about. And this one doesn't get stopped by, Master Tong screaming. This gets stopped by Joe being a drama queen and getting shot.
I feel like there are a few ways that Joe probably could have handled this better. I mean, he at least yells to warn them and everything. They realize it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why Andy decides, oh, okay, there's a distraction. I'll take a chance to cheap shot him. But yeah, Joe gets shot, which kind of sucks. I don't know why, but I like Joe. He's not that great in the movies necessarily, but I really like Joe. It's a shame that he got shot in the shoulder.
But that's not enough tragedy. We need some more stuff in this to really solidify the fact that Terry does not like Geese. I mean, Andy doesn't like him either, and Joe's just kind of there for the ride. But Terry really hates him. Because he's the star of this thing, so obviously he's the one who's going to get revenge. Yeah, fuck you, Andy.
I'm sorry, before we talk about Lily getting killed and Master Tongue dying, why does Joe keep getting screwed up in every single one of these damn movies? I know there's only 3 of them, but it's like, Joe tries his best to, help his friends out and is rewarded with just getting his ass handed to him over and over again. It really sucks. Like, I feel like he should have a larger role in all of this, but, he just doesn't. Oh, and this Lily death thing, this gets brought up in the other 2 movies. After, they kind of forget about Terry's dad and everything. Now it's all about Lily and Master Tong. Because they're more important than, well, I guess he got revenge on. No, he gets revenge on all of them. Except for Billy. That's when Andy gets his revenge. Because, whatever. I do just want to talk about, at least Billy, does something in this as one of the bad guys. Raiden does nothing. He just kind of shows up. You're not even too sure if he works for Geese, but, he eventually does. I think Geese mentions him at one point. But then Raiden shows up, headbutts Joe a couple of times in the shoulder. Because that's a freaking productive use of his time, but whatever.
So after Lily and Master Tongue basically get killed, Master Tongue hangs around for a little while because we don't have a montage yet. And it wouldn't be a movie about martial arts if there wasn't a montage. So here it is.
Okay, we need to rush through this montage because, Master Tongue's about to die after he teaches Terry this. And also, we don't have a whole lot left in this movie. So Master Tongue teaches him how to do the Hurricane Punch. I believe there's also a Hurricane Kick as well. But Terry doesn't get to learn that one. He learns the Hurricane Punch. It doesn't really work out for him, as you can see. But, he got the gist of it. He doesn't really need to master the thing yet. He's got 2 more chances at that. And Master Tongue dies. And Terry just kind of leaves him there, but,
Now, if you're thinking there hasn't been enough, badass moments in this, don't worry, more fights are coming.
I think the movie kind of realized that they hadn't done a whole lot with the supporting cast in this. Fatal Fury's not a huge game. There's not a whole lot of characters for you to pick from. You only have 3 selectable characters if you're just trying to do this on your own. and I don't think there's a whole lot in the versus mode. I'd have to go back and check. So we've introduced like just a few people. You've got Richard Meyer. He gets included in the game because they just don't have enough people. And then you've got Billy and you've got Raiden here. So they're the bad guys. And then you've got Geese. So you got 3 bad guys, 3 good guys. And if you look at the fighting game, they need to get a whole lot of other people in here. So I feel like they just sort of created people who are in the tournament, and you don't really hear too much about them. But yeah, they kind of realized they weren't really doing too much. Andy, I mean, it's understandable that he cheats. He puts a metal plate under his chest, like right where Billy's going to do his stupid strike move thing. Apparently he only has one move with his goddamn stick, and after that he's screwed. So Andy takes him out, and then Joe remembers that he's a badass, and he beats the shit out of Raiden in like one punch. I feel like he could have done this earlier, like a lot earlier, like maybe right away, but, you know, again, we can't really do that. It's a good thing that, you know, Joe's good arm wasn't shot, so, you know, whatever. And then they end up running up and trying to fight Geese, but that doesn't exactly go well.
This part always felt weird for me because it's like, you know, Terry shows up and all the hard work's been done for him. Like, he doesn't even help Joe and Andy to, like, fight off all these guys. And he's not that far behind, so how long could it possibly have taken him to, you know, learn this ultimate technique? Also, it's gone from night to, like, midday. So, like, just don't think about that. Just enjoy the fighting.
So this last fight, it is actually pretty cool. You've got, you know, Terry doing his burn knuckle. He tries his power wave, realizes neither of those are going to work, and then he decides to do, you know, his ultimate technique after holding back here. So, you know, he's pretty good at blocking. Geese is kind of surprised by that, which would probably surprise me too, because I would have no idea what's happening. But yeah, it's a pretty awesome fight scene. It takes Terry 2 shots in order to get the ultimate technique to work, but, you know, he gets it done. Yeah, he beats up Geese, but this first one, it doesn't really end too well for him.
So I really like this last part because it's not just, you know, he does the ultimate technique and beats the bad guy. It's, you know, he goes through all of his greatest hits, or at least the ones we haven't seen yet. So he throws the burn knuckle at him, throws the power wave at him, does the final technique, or the hurricane punch the first time. That, like, doesn't work. I guess Geese was holding back and was able to, you know, block him enough times. And so he gets tossed back, and then he just kind of digs a little bit deeper and, you know, remembers a bunch of the people who died, and they magically help him. At least it makes more sense than, you know, when Goku fought Broly and they just gave Goku his power, because that's a thing that's never happened before in Dragon Ball, so we need to do it then. At least here it makes a little bit more sense. He kind of uses their memories, summons more power, and then this happens.
So Terry uses his spirit bomb and is able to actually defeat Geese. I'm guessing Geese messed up the timing on some of his blocks. You know, maybe he was trying to get a move out as well, but it just didn't work out for him.
One thing I kind of liked about this is how it gets through things really quick. This is only like 45-50 minutes long, and that includes like the credits and everything, so both the opening and the closing. It moves you through things very quick, and it jams a lot of stuff in there and gives you the entire reason why the games exist. SNK did a really great job with this series, and, you know, whoever they got to do the videos and everything, they did an amazing job as well. So as I mentioned, this is only like a 45-50 minute movie, and it moves you through just as fast as I kind of explained it. They don't stop to let anything breathe. It's like every important thing that happened to Terry happened in Southtown. Nothing outside of that mattered. And yeah, like in that span of one day, he gets the motivation that's going to carry him through the next two movies. Just forget about his dead dad or ever anything. Now it's all about Lily and stuff like that. It's kind of weird how they just sort of dropped his dad, but whatever. It's a movie, it doesn't really matter that much. So while Fatal Fury is my favorite anime, and all three of them really are my favorite animes, it's not my favorite fighting game series. That would be King of Fighters and also Guilty Gear. I'm really terrible at fighting games, as we'll see in a minute. But yeah, this is such a fun movie to sit back and watch because you just don't really have to think, and it's over pretty damn fast.
So we can talk a little bit about the games. I've said this many times, I am terrible at fighting games, as you can definitely see. I could not get any of the damn moves out. I don't know what my problem was. So this is on one of the collections. It's, I think, the PS2 collection. And you can get Fatal Fury 1, 2, Special, and Fatal Fury 3, which I didn't know there was a Fatal Fury 3 game. I'm guessing that was only in the arcades or a Japan exclusive. There was Garu, Mark of the Wolf, but I don't think that's the same as Fatal Fury 3. If I'm wrong, I'm sure somebody will mention it in the comments below, and honestly, thank you for doing that. It's kind of one of those weird things. I don't know as much about fighting games as I think I probably should. I enjoy playing them, but I'm absolutely terrible at them. So I do have to rant a little bit about the other movies here. We'll get to Fatal Fury 2 and Fatal Fury the Motion Picture at some point. One thing, I like how Geese shows up in both of those, but his appearances are weird. Like, he shows up, and it turns out he's like the half-brother of Krauser. So apparently nobody can actually raise their own children and whatnot. They're always orphans or something like that in the Fatal Fury world. I don't get that place at all. It's a very strange universe that these games and the movies all exist in. But Geese shows up, and just kind of, he's still injured and everything, but he rips off his bandages at the end. And then in the next movie, he's got like this scar on his chest, and he says like he's gonna be invincible until that scar heals or something like that. It's a very weird movie and everything. Just very weird things are going on in that. One thing I do like is that this spawned the King of Fighters games, and yeah, those are really awesome. It was kind of like SNK just sort of, they had all these other franchises and everything, and didn't really know what to do with them, so they kind of turned them all into one giant franchise, which honestly is much better than the parts that it was made out of. I like the other series, like Fatal Fury is still going to be probably my favorite, but then, Art of Fighting isn't that bad. What was it? Samurai Showdown. That one's pretty good too, and then they sort of like lump in a bunch of other weird stuff from SNK properties. Anyway, guys, that's going to wrap it up. Let me know what you think in the comments below. The next one I'm going to do is probably War Games. I haven't forgotten about that. I will get to that one event, and if not next week, then the week after. Anyway, talk to you guys later, and have a great day, everybody.